Being a Lutheran implies much more than just a set way of doing things. Being a Lutheran means that you see the world around you through a different set of eyes than you might otherwise, and see all of us as something that God has created and something that God desires to call good, as God did in that first chapter of Genesis when the world was created.
If we don't start Sunday with church, we don't get the week started off right.
This one just appealed to me, and I really liked the pastor. His children were the age of my daughter, so I figured that he would be very concerned about youth activities. And my memory of coming here the first time was we came in the side door, and this beautiful little blonde girl came up and greeted us, and it was Beth. And I still remember it was so sweet of her to do that. She must have seen Sylvia and figured, oh, she's about my age. And so it was very, very nice. And that was a good introduction.
We liked the traditional look, we liked the pews, we liked the walls, the stenciling. It just was a warm feeling when you walk into the church. The people, I think, really make this church.
Everyone's very friendly. I mean, that was, I think, what kept us coming back was even from our first visit, folks stopped and talked with us and chatted with us. We were married here, and both children were baptized here, and now they're going through the confirmation class.
The appearance of the church, people going by say, gee, that's a nice looking church there. And they must take good care of it, because boy, look at the gardens around it, look nice, the building is nice, it isn't run down, it's inviting. People like to see, hey, they must be doing well, they must be conscientious about the facility that they have, they must be proud of it, because it looks great. We're on the historical registry there in town. It's part of history of Pittsburgh.
It feels churchy here because it's so old and there's so much symbolism here yet. If you go into a modern church now, it doesn't do much for me. I like the windows for sure, and I like the altar. I like the old-fashioned pews.
There are members who have been a part of this congregation since its inception, and I think their children's children are now a part of the congregation, and they need to be able to tell us their stories as well, and their memories of their youth and their memories of what St. Paul's has meant to them, because that certainly is a part of the fabric that is woven together to make the story of St. Paul's the tapestry that it is.
I have been here for 86 years. I was in the choir. I met my husband in the choir. We got married here. It was supposed to be, and there was no if, ands, or buts. That was it.
Like fate.
Right.
It was fate that you were a member.
I think so. I think so.
I was very impressed when I first came to St. Paul's, first of all, that committees had agendas, written agendas, and that the lay people were more than willing to pray before a meeting and take that responsibility and that leadership role. I had come from a congregation that I described as all Indians and very few chiefs. When I came to St. Paul's, I felt I had a lot of chiefs and not a lot of Indians. A lot of people wanted to be leaders, and so it was wonderful in that regard.
This is our home. This is our church. We've had wonderful pastors, good leaders, and lots of wonderful friends.
Oh, it's the community.
I was just going to say that.
It's the community.
It's community.
And I always remember one thing Pastor Pig just said a long time ago, that we made a mistake by not having a sign over the exit that said servants' entrance.
That was one of the things that Jesus said, go out into the world and spread the gospel, the good news. So that's very important in our church.
Each of the individual groups within the church, whether it's the Dorcas Rachel group or the LYO or some of the other groups that operate in the church, they all have very passionate, very engaged leaders, and they just get people excited to be here.
The more you're involved, the more people you meet and the more people you get in touch with, it's just better for you.
I've been on church council, this is my 4th year, and this year I was elected president. It's really not a political body. It's not a self-serving body for the individuals. It's a group of people who want to manage the business of the church and move forward, supporting the church, the community, and the activities of St. Paul. My wife got into the reading and the lector work, and I stuck with ushering and then all the other communion prep and things like that. My daughters are now acolytes. It gives you a sense of responsibility to be good stewards of what's here. And we're only here we've hopped on the train for the length of our journey, and then one day we'll get off the train and it'll be somebody else's, whoever's left on the train at that time or getting on the train at that time, to take over that stewardship. And part of the council is we want to make it a better place and for the next generations to come.
Adult Forum was a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
Because the people were so anxious to learn, and I learned a very important lesson that you learn more teaching than you do when you're a student.
If you are more involved in something, you're more likely to support it. You're more likely to volunteer and make it better. You're more likely to be a part of the process of making things work and continue and grow and be strong. The intent is to say we're in this together. I'm not alone in my need. I'm not alone in my understanding of how things work. And I'm not alone in terms of how I try to approach life. Step number 1 is show up. And once you've shown up, chances are the next steps will fall into place.
You have to come to church and you have to be here for more than just the worship service. You have to have a reason. You have to have a purpose within the church and its operations to really feel connected here. If you just come every Sunday and you go to the service, that's all well and good, but if you aren't doing something else, if you're not singing in the choir, or if you're not putting on fellowship, if you're not thinking about, oh, I've got to teach Sunday school when this is over, or if you're not thinking about, oh, I have to get up and talk to people about this event that we're having later, or some kind of outreach project or community service, if you're not engaged in that on a weekly basis, you're not going to be motivated to come all the time. And I think in order to put church higher up on your priority list, which is really important for people, you have to engage more than just in the service.
I really think that Sunday school is very, very important because it's the only time where the parents really can encourage kids to have a religious experience.
The children's sermon, the Sunday school, the confirmation, the young people are very active in this church. We owe that, of course, to our teachers and members, but you know, it's very important in this day and age, especially to get young people into the church.
The children should be recognized and given more responsibilities. And then in the long run, as they grow up, they will know where they come from and what it's like to be part of a congregation.
Back in 1884, when they decided to build the sanctuary that is the current sanctuary, they built it, I think, with a vision of size. They didn't just build for the size that they were, they built it bigger so that it could grow. They built it with the hope that it would serve a community that it was a part of. It was to create a space that would be a welcoming place for people to gather, but it would also create a sense of belonging to not only the congregation, but to the community that said, you belong here, you're part of something here. Reintroducing the thought of having a pot ready and cookies and those kinds of things that not only adults but children felt a part of, I think created a whole new atmosphere for linger a while and talk to somebody and connect with somebody and find that, hey, there are people here that really are worth investing your time in and investing your life in, and possibly your social life in. I remember before that existed, the worship service would end sometime after 12, and by 12:30 everybody was gone. After we built that space, at 1 o'clock, I was telling people, I'm leaving, the door will lock behind you, stay as long as you wish. And they did. The fellowship just increased tremendously after that, and people were very glad for that.
I was amazed. It really is a wonderful feeling when you walk in. Before, when you walked in, you walked directly into the church itself. This way you have a place to meet and greet, have a cup of coffee, chat a little before the service, try to get in before the pastor.
I'd love to see the church filled every Sunday. It'd be wonderful. When you go to church Christmas Eve and you see everybody there, and it's wonderful. Or Easter, or any of the occasions where you have a large group. What do people do that don't have a church family? A death happens in the family, a wedding happens in the family, some major event in the family. It's wonderful to have that church family. They're so supportive of you. And the good Lord puts his hand on your shoulder and you feel a little better.
Pastor Hedin came, he emphasized working with the community. That was a big help, and it started, I think, the influx of people were bringing their children to church.
I think if people paid attention to what gets written in annual reports, they would realize the great stuff that St. Paul's does.
Giving through the church to was the ECLA, and this year at Christmas time I gave a goat. Which it doesn't mean much to us, but to those people that have nothing and have needs, it's very important.
There are some times when I think just hearing the music, particularly if I can give Chris Pettit a shout out, that he provided us, just made you feel like, you know, heaven can't be much better than this. And certainly he has that gift. My great hope is it'll continue to find a variety of music so that you're comfortable with the styles that are there. Every congregation is one generation from extinction. If you don't keep renewing yourself, you're not going to be able to continue. And you've got to find people who are excited about being there, who are renewing things with fresh ideas as well as with bodies. There will always be a congregation that welcomes children, it welcomes adults, welcomes elders.
With our technology, it's so easy to remain isolated, and it's not always the healthiest thing to do.
I think you've got all walks of life here, and everyone seems to get along, and it's friendly. People care about each other. There are always opportunities for us to do something, participate.
It's a family feeling that you don't get in large churches, you know. You just feel like you've drawn closer to the Lord, I think, when you go in the church on Sunday, and join with the rest of the people that have the same beliefs that you do. And it's a community, and it gives you the feeling of peace.
It's here to stay forever.
Touch base with the Lord every Sunday. It recharges your faith battery, kicks off the week on the right foot. The letters in Bible, B-I-B-L-E, simply means basic instructions before leaving Earth. And I think that's pretty solid stuff.